Thank you for joining me for another quick hits conversation. I'm Dr. Robyn. With me today, I have Michael Sicuranza, Philip Tate, and Audrey Cooper. Today, I would like to talk about how to have difficult conversations without them escalating into a fight. Philip, kick us off.
Well, Robyn, I was remembering early in my career, I was working in college sports in Dallas, Texas. And one of my clients was a conference commissioner. He worked every day with college presidents, athletic directors, head coaches in various sports. And he liked to say he was paid $2 an hour in return for all the ego he could handle. So I learned from him that one of the best ways to handle difficult conversations and inherently conflict, which arose a lot in his world, he liked to call it, let the air out of the balloon. He said, lower the temperature in the conversation. And he said, that allows you to listen to the other person. And I saw him do this in some really high stress and high stakes conversations. And he was absolutely masterful at it. And I've never forgotten that one.
It's interesting. So I think in my role, working with students, working with individuals, I think it's building a trust too. So if you're having a difficult conversation, it's not, a personal attack or, something that is going to impact them personally per se, but really just building that trust ahead of time so they know it's not them that is an issue or the person, but maybe just this situation or the issue at hand.
Yeah, I think those are both awesome points. I think also coming from a place of compassion, at least in the workplace, knowing, when you have to have a difficult conversation, having that person know that you care about them prior to having that conversation is really, really important. And I think that, and then the combination of not letting it get to a head, having micro conversations along the way, probably work. I probably should do a better job of this at home with my kids. But having those smaller conversations, so there's no surprise. I think a lot of times things escalate very quickly because people are taken by surprise or off guard. Or if you're having conversations along the way about, work product or whatever, I think ultimately it helps having that more difficult conversation.
Yeah, in my books, I talk about styles of conflict resolution. And one is the volcano method, which is everything is fine. It gets all suppressed down till it blows up. Another one is the act of kitchen sinking, which is you come into a conversation and you throw absolutely everything you can find, and pretty soon you're talking about something that has nothing to do with anything. And the one thing I always share with clients is the only thing you get to control in a conversation is yourself. And you have to be able to catch your emotions escalating. And for me, it's a psychosomatic. Catch that feeling of, oh, now I'm going to be angry before it explodes.
As a professional communicator, I think learning how to diffuse an argument is one of the most critical communication skills that you can develop. And as we said, and the others have said, it allows you to focus on building healthy relationships. I mean, whether it's with colleagues, with clients, whatever, because I think what you're trying to do in any conversation is to get the information you need to move forward, to make a decision, to resolve a conflict or whatever. And I think to one of the earlier points that was made, it's hard to do, but staying present, trying to remember what we're here to do. It's easy to get sidetracked. That volcano method you mentioned, Dr. Robyn, is one of the things that I think about that takes you totally out of the moment. And so if you can stay present and focused on the task at hand, sometimes that helps too.
Mm-hmm. Right. Do you guys think that this is easier professionally than it is personally?
For sure.
Why? Why is that? Why are we so hard on the people we love the most and so willing to stay under control with professionally? What's up with that?
Yeah, there's more baggage in personal relationships. I think longer relationships, and sometimes it might, without even knowing it, you might be picking at a scab that had healed over from something a long time ago. So sometimes that's the case. I mean, I've worked in the agency business for more than 30 years and had some really long-standing clients, and some of those relationships were the same way. There was a lot of baggage and a lot of history there, and sometimes you had to overcome that.
Yeah, I would think that even the past experiences with personal versus professional really impact, right? And so thinking about I'm thinking about my own family and, which one am I? Am I a volcano? Am I a kitchen sink? How do I approach these things? And my husband would probably say kitchen sink. And but it's good to realize that, right? And, you know, I think in our personal lives, I feel like I'm more at stake, you know. Obviously, professional world is a great thing and a wonderful aspect to be a part of, but your personal world is the most important to me. And so I think I have more at stake in my personal space.
Yeah, I think, you know, I think you tend to be more reserved in work because sometimes there's other people listening. You know, you have other people in the room, right? I mean, you have to be professional and, you know, whatever you want to call it. I also think that the ability, quite frankly, as a leader, sometimes if you say the wrong thing, you could be sued. So you need to kind of, you know, in some ways tone it down where, you know, although our personal relationships obviously are more important, I think our significant others know us well enough to give us some more leeway and some more latitude, right? Mm-hmm. So if you goof up at home, it's saying, you know, by, you know, using the volcano approach or whatever, you know, during these conversations, you maybe lose your temper, you know, they love you and they're willing to forgive your foibles. Sometimes at work, they might not love you. And even if you're a compassionate person, and they're not going to forgive your foibles. So I think there's some of that too also.
Yeah, so the risk of blowing up is greater at work as far as like professionally, and it might damage your career or whatever, but the risk of blowing up at home just hurts the other person and they can get over it. And that's unfortunate, I think.
Yeah, and I don't want to, you know, misrepresent, you know, what that's not what that's what I'm saying, but that's not what I'm saying. But I mean, I think that there's, you know, they love us for our faults and our what is important to us. So, and what, I mean, and what we are, you know, so
I think it's just important that when we think about it, and I'm not saying the three of you exclusively, I'm saying me too, that we think about like how we treat the people we love and who love us and what we expect from them and how we could be kinder and gentler with them, because we know we do it professionally all the time.
Well, I think there's also some instances when conversations may venture into an area where it's apparent an agreement can't be reached. Mm-hmm. You know, you may have to make a decision on what's more important, winning the argument or maintaining the relationship. I can think of an instance for someone as a colleague. We were at opposite ends of the political spectrum, but we still went to lunch, you know, a couple of times a month. And we just basically agreed, these are a couple of areas we're not going to go into. Our friendship's more valuable to us than to undo it by going into an area that we know is going to create conflict.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Philip. I think that recognizing why you're having the difficult conversation, like what's the point, what's the outcome? Because in a political conversation, there's no, like, you're not going to change their mind. That's not going to be a thing. You're going to have a fight. That's it. So what is the point of the difficult conversation is a really good place to start to keep it from escalating.
Right. And I would think even just making sure that you're listening, right? Really listening to the other person instead of listening to respond, listen and understand. You know, I think that that's an important aspect too, even just in everyday life, both professional and personal, like really just listening, hearing what their concern is and the side that they're coming from. And maybe it's not really an opposite side. Maybe it's just, you know, you need to communicate a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, and understanding that when you listen, you're listening through a filter. So make sure that you are actually articulating, this is what I think I heard, which feels really awkward, but works really well.
Yeah, I've heard that called reflective listening. You know, sometimes you may repeat back what the person said just to make sure that you're hearing it correctly. I think that also breaks down a little bit of a barrier. You know, it shows that you're genuinely trying to hear them and make sure that you're understanding where some conflict might exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been a really amazing conversation. Thank you for having it with me. You know, I consider myself a bit of an expert on conflict, having written a couple of books and done TED Talks about it, but I always love hearing other people's perspective of how do you have these difficult conversations without them escalating. So thank you for sharing your tips and ideas with me. And I look forward to the next conversation we get to have.
Thank you.
Thank you.